Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. On the podcast this time, an exceptionally talented, award-winning vocalist from Manhattan who has attracted listeners all around the world. She is known for her intimate interpretations, her warm cello sound, her affinity for finding hidden gems from great songwriters, and we've got some beautiful music to showcase today. Will you please welcome my new friend, Celia Berk. How you doing, darling?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. The question I ask all musicians is, what was your why? What was the reason behind you becoming a vocalist, a musician, or just like getting into the field of music?
I can't remember a time that music wasn't part of my life, and singing to me is kind of like breathing. And I've gone in and out of professional aspirations as a singer, but I never stopped singing. I always took voice lessons every week, and my grandmother was a wonderful pianist, and it's just part of who I am.
In your formative years as a student, did you ever do solos and such like that really and truly got you going?
Yes and no. Since high school, I would go in every week to Manhattan to study with a professional voice teacher, but my aspiration was to be an actor, not a singer. So An actor who sang, not a singer.
So musical theater would be ideal for you then, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I also have learned opera roles. So I'm a trained singer. And to me, every song is a one-act play. And you look at what's at stake, what's happening. I monologue those songs. They're plays.
Great perspective. Very great perspective. For someone who is not familiar with your music, how would you describe your musical stylings?
Great American Songbook, traditional vocalist in the style of a Rosemary Clooney, a Margaret Whiting, a Barbara Cook, who really had great respect for the material.
You have an affinity for finding those hidden gems from the great songwriters and such. Do you have a methodology for describing and discovering these artists and songs?
No, I kind of backed into it partly by process of elimination. It didn't necessarily interest me to sing the standards when I could hear in my own head the versions from those great vocalists. I wasn't sure I necessarily had something to add. So to find fertile ground where I could just look at it as a brand new piece of music, but a brand new piece of music from a great songwriter just really appealed to me. So I call myself a musical truffle hound. I'm always looking for those songs.
Very good, very good. In the Great American Songbook, any particular vocalists or stylings that really influenced your career, ones that really resonate with you?
Yeah, some that I mentioned, that incredible sound of a Rosemary Clooney, the great girl singers of that era, including Margaret Whiting. I absolutely adore Barbara Cook, not only for her Broadway roles. You know, she was the original Marion the librarian in The Music Man, but she became this incredible vocal stylist. And I once went to one of her concerts and came out behind Stephen Sondheim, and he said, when Barbara finds the center of the song, there's no one better. And I've always looking for what does it mean to find the center of a song. Also, a very young Barbra Streisand, just the rawness of it, and that she went towards initially the same kind of music that I go to, the Great American Songbook, and she makes every song a one-act play for sure.
First song we're going to feature is from your album called You Can't Rush Spring, a track called I've Been Waiting All My Life. And to date, this is probably one of the most popular ones on the streaming platforms. Can you give us your vibe on this particular song and why you decided to do it?
It tells my story. It took me a very long time to return to singing publicly. So the message of the song is, I've been waiting all my life. It is the first song on my very first album, and both things came very late in life. And we went in and recorded this one and got it in 3 takes. This is a complete take. There's nothing fussed or fixed on it.
All right, we're going to feature that, right? The waiting is over. I've been waiting all my life for Celia Berk on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
I've been waiting all my life and looking for the smile that says the rain is over. I've been listening all my life to hear in one hello the quiet voice of love. I've been waiting all my life for you, looking for the door that you'd come through, wanting, wishing all along, a singer with a song and no one to sing it to. All the songs I've never sung, with words I've never used, you're hearing when I hold you. And now my arms are open wide, there's so much love inside, you'll never want for more. The waiting seems so long ago, you're here, my love and all. Were you worth waiting for?
From her album, You Can't Rush Spring, I've Been Waiting All My Life. That's Celia Berk. She's our guest today on the Someone You Should Know podcast. We've got some more great music lined up in just a couple of minutes. I want to say thanks so much for tuning into the Someone You Should Know podcast. You can find us on the World Wide Web at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. There you're going to find our recent news, our archive of more than 190 episodes, and a whole lot more. If you happen to be visiting, please leave us a little comment and let us know how we're doing, okay? I want to thank the fine folks at Buzzsprout. They're the ones that service us and send us all to all the streaming platforms. To date, my goodness, we're heard in over 2,300 cities in 90 countries around the world. We want to salute a couple of new ones here: Ontario, New York, East Chicago, Indiana, Fort Collins, Colorado, and the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea in the United Kingdom. This is Someone You Should Know podcast, heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. I want to say thanks for listening. We are speaking to the talented Celia Berk. Receiving praise for your work is always welcome. But if you have people like Michael Feinstein and Rex Reed and Stephen Holden lauding your work, how does that make you feel?
It definitely builds your confidence, because those three gentlemen don't say anything they don't mean. And I just got a beautiful review from Broadway World for the show that I've just been doing. It definitely helps, but I have a rule in my head that if I'm going to believe the ones that are love letters, then I'm going to have to believe the ones that poke at me or are even a little snarky sometimes. So you can't over-index on either side. You have to go down the middle. And at the end of the day, I know if I accomplished what I set out to do. But boy, oh boy, when you see one of those, it's just an extraordinary feeling.
My wife Leslie and I are huge fans of musical theater, and every time we get a chance to go into the city of Chicago and see something we do, we make the opportunity to do so, and we just big fans of that. So hearing this music is just really kind of reminiscent of some of the great things we've heard through the years. Can you share your inspiration and themes behind the album Manhattan Serenade that wound up winning you at the Lamont Friedman Award?
Yes. Well, I am a New Yorker through and through, not just a New Yorker, Manhattan, not just Manhattan, but I live in Gramercy Park, and my record label is Gramercy Nightingale Music Company. So that's where all of that comes from. And I wanted to do songs that expressed how it feels to me to be a New Yorker. So not just because a song was about New York doesn't mean it was going to make it onto the song list. And again, by and large, they needed to be hidden gems so that we could offer something new and not so familiar. But each thing on the album expresses something about what it's like for me to live in New York.
And the next song we're going to feature from that award-winning album is called Manhattan Madness. Can you give us the synopsis of that particular song, why you chose that one? And it's a great song.
It's a fabulous song, and nobody does it, and it was recommended to me, and it's Irving Berlin, and it's quite extraordinary, because when you listen to it about the craziness of Manhattan, with buildings come up and buildings go down, and the sound of the noise of the chaos and everything, it could have been written today, but it wasn't. It was written very early in Irving Berlin's career. And it features Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks, who are very well-known musicians who keep this music alive, and that he was willing to come in with a small subset of his larger band was a thrill. And I do backup on it. There are 3 backup singers. They're all me.
So you actually figured out the cloning thing, haven't you?
And it was so much fun to do that. So yes, and I named my 3, because it's Gramercy Nightingale, I named the 3 girls Robin, Wren, and Lark. So it's me and the girls.
Awesome, very good. Let's play that right now. This is Manhattan Madness.
I'm like a fly upon a steeple, watching 7 million people do a rhythm that draws me with them. Manhattan, 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 Manhattan madness. You're going too fast. I'm like a baby on a rocker, watching Father Knickerbocker being busy. I'm getting dizzy. When shadows creep in my bed, I tumble, but never sleep, for I hear the rumble in the street, the tramping of feet that haunt me the whole night long. And through the day, I'm watching the drama that people play in your panorama, and I hear, in tones very clear, the sound of your restless song. Subways below and trains above, racing, packed with humanity. And trucks and trolley cars chasing, busy as they can be. Steaming machines and riveters grating motors instead of men. Buildings go up with wrecking crews waiting to tear them down again. Newsies that shout sensational headlines, peddlers with things to sell. Noisy cafes and whispering bread lines, children that scream and yell. Whistles and bells and siren horns blowing, pistols that crack and roar. Traffic that stops and goes without knowing what all the shooting's for. Manhattan, Manhattan madness. You've got me at last. I'm like a fly up on a steeple, watching 7 million people do a rhythm that draws me with them, and it's
I really like that one, Manhattan Madness, from today's podcast guest, Celia Berk. Being the accomplished person that you are, you have played some wonderful venues and memorable performances. Anything really resonate with you as far as, I can't believe I did this, or I can't believe I played in front of these people?
I can't believe any of it, to tell you the truth, because I came to it so late in my professional life. But every year, almost every year, I am honored to be invited to the Mabel Mercer Cabaret Convention in New York, which takes place most years at Jazz at Lincoln Center. And I can't believe I'm singing at Lincoln Center. There was one year that it was at Town Hall, which was just an iconic venue. There was another year where they did a program and it was in the recital hall at Carnegie Hall. I mean, talk about it being surreal to be going into the dressing room area and seeing pictures of the greatest musicians in the world, and you're about to step out on one of those stages. And I've had the chance to sing at some beautiful clubs like 54 Below. So I've just been very fortunate to be able to do this.
Yeah, I've had a couple of friends of mine played the Radio City Music Hall, and it's like, I can't believe I'm at this iconic venue. What am I doing? Just me on stage at this particular thing. Wow. Now, you play some great places. Then you've had those moments where things didn't go quite as planned. Our next feature is called Tales from the Road. These are those infamous road stories where things didn't go quite as planned. Celia, how about you? In your case here, since you might have done a lot of recordings, we'll transition this, maybe make this Tales from the Studio if you'd like.
I don't have Tales from the Studio. I have to say the studio is my happy place. Okay. I just love being in there, and nothing's gone seriously awry there. But when I was first getting ready to go back to performing live, I was part of a group that would get into a bunch of cars and drive upstate to a church in upstate New York. And you would get up and you would work on your material, and there would be just enough people to trigger the adrenaline and be nervous. And it was a wonderful gift for me to be able to get my sea legs again. But every month we would organize ourselves in these cars, and then not everybody who was driving those cars would then come back to the city. There was one person who would continue on because they were a teacher and he was a teacher in Connecticut. So on that particular day, when all the car things moved around at the end, I was just standing in the driveway and everybody was in the car, and there literally was no place for me in any of the cars going back. And it was just long enough ago that there was no Lyft, there was no Uber, you're in the middle of nowhere, you're nowhere near a bus stop, you're nowhere near a real train station. And I thought, oh my God, I am going to be here overnight in this little town in upstate New York. And fortunately, one of the singers who was there with her parents said they would drive me as far as the nearest Metro North big train station and leave me there. And I said, great, I don't care if I'm standing on that platform for 2 hours. The poor woman who organized it was horrified, but she didn't know what to do. It had never happened before, and it never happened since. And I've never forgotten that sensation. So now I always have a little plan B about how am I going to get back if something goes weird, and you're out in Nowhereville.
Good. Thanks for your Tales from the Road, Celia. Appreciate it. That's a good one. That's a good one. Real good. Hey, looking ahead to the remainder of 2024, what kind of projects and goals should we know about?
Yeah, I'm about to start a new collaboration with a music director, so I can't say what will happen. I do have a concept. It's very challenging to get these albums out. The finances of getting these albums out are not so easy. We're also grateful to have places like your podcast to be able to introduce ourselves to listeners. So I have an idea for something that might come in phased over time, first on a streaming platform and ultimately roll up into a physical CD. So if you ask me in 6 months, I'll be able to tell you, but next week is the first time we're going to get together, but it does have a theme. And if you can't see beyond our Zoom screen, but there's sheet music everywhere in this room at the moment while I organize us to just dive in. In the fall, I will be back at the Cabaret Convention through the Mabel Mercer Foundation to sing a song at Jazz at Lincoln Center. And in December, I've been invited to go to Urban Stages, the Winter Rhythm series, for an evening being organized with music and lyrics of songs that are about the holidays.
Oh, good. Very good.
And it's a series of different songwriters, and the hope is that it will then have a life beyond that one evening in that festival, which is possible because I did one of my own projects last December, and I just brought it back to the Laurie Beachman Theater here in Manhattan last week. So it's a great platform for that.
Very, very good. So I guess the best way to do is to keep informed of what's going on in your world and all new music and such is your socials. What's good socials, your website and social medias we should follow you on?
My website is celiaberk.com, CeliaBerk. And all my socials are Celia Berk Music. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on that thing called X. I have a YouTube channel. It's very hard to not be able to find me. And for every album and every single that I've put out, every EP on my website, I have song notes and some really interesting background. And I have beautiful liner notes for several of my albums that are there as well.
Awesome. So very good. So what we'll do is we'll link down those in our show notes. We'll make sure all the links to your socials are down in our show notes. Okay. I'm going to wrap the show up with your most recent album, Now That I Have Everything. This was actually part of the preliminary ballot for the 2023 Grammys. That had to be kind of a nice little...
It was wonderful. It was really thrilling just to see your name on that ballot with some of the great singers of the world. And that's the way I approached it, to be honest, is to have that sensation, and also in the hopes that people would listen to the music who otherwise wouldn't know it's out there. It's, without the era of the big radio stations and the big labels putting out physical albums, it is really challenging to find your listeners. But boy, that moment, seeing that on that ballot was mind-boggling.
That floors me. I would just, I think I would faint if it ever happened to something I was working on. I've had my awards through the years, but to get something like a Grammy Award, that would be really very, very, very special. We're going to wrap up the show. How You Fixed for Love. Can you tell us a little about How You Fixed for Love?
How You Fixed for Love is the first song on the album Now That I Have Everything. It was a pivot toward a bit more of a jazz orientation. I collaborated with a wonderful pianist and music director, Ted Firth, who listened to the music that I had been doing with a pianist named Sean Goff and said, I hear a Nat King Cole trio vibe. And he brought in piano, bass, and guitar. And How You Fix for Love is Jimmy Van Heusen and Sammy Kahn. The liner notes for this album are by Will Friedwald, who wrote the definitive biography of Nat King Cole. And he loves this track and had somehow never heard the verse. So when he listened to the album and heard what you're going to hear the song start with, he just went crazy. So I think it's a wonderful intro to the album and to this collaboration, which was very joyful.
Very good. Celia, we really appreciate you being on the podcast. And it's always wonderful to introduce my audience to talented people that deserve radio time, that deserve to be someone you should know, and that's just it. And we thank you so much for taking your time to share your music with us and your story with us. And thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
I've never been considered inquisitive. That's not my nature at all. To illustrate what I mean, I don't care to know why grass is green. But lately I'm asking lots and lots of questions. Since you came on the scene, I wonder How are you fixed for stars? How are you fixed for kissing while we listen to soft guitars? How are you fixed for someone to watch the rain with, to stroll down the lane with, for someone to just go a little insane with? How are you fixed for memories, memories that shine so bright? If we let fancy take us, we could make us a few tonight. How are you fixed for someone who'll fit your arms like a glove? Hey, tell me, baby, how are you fixed for love? To soft guitars. How are you fixed for someone to sit and tan with, to worry and plan with, for someone to dine right from out of a can with? Memories glow so bright. If we let Cupid rock us, we could knock us a few tonight. How are you fixed for someone who'll fit your arms like a glove? Since lately I've been asking lots and lots of questions. Please fill me in just for kicks. Tell me, darling, how are you fixed for love?
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.